Morning, everyone, and welcome to the Township of North Frontenac's regular council meeting. Please be advised, North Frontenac council meetings are recorded. By attending a public meeting of council, you are consenting to your image, voice, and comments being recorded. Members of council, staff, delegates, and attendees are advised that they may be subject to legal action if their actions result in inappropriate and/or unacceptable behavior or comment. We begin this gathering by acknowledging and celebrating the traditional lands as a gathering place of the first peoples and their ancestors, who were entrusted to care for Mother Earth since time immemorial. We do so respecting both the land and the indigenous people who continue to walk with us through this world. Today, the Township of North Frontenac is committed to working with indigenous peoples and all residents to pursue a united path of reconciliation. Reading of the agenda.
Moved by Deputy Mayor Hudel, second by Councillor Hermer. Be it resolved, the council approves the agenda dated November 21st, 2025 as circulated.
Comments? Deputy Mayor?
Suggest maybe that we move in item 9A, the zoning bylaw approvals from 16 up to 9A. So we approve that right at 8, so I'd like to do the whole meeting.
So that's 2025-53 and 2025-54. Correct. Now which one is going to I'm used to.
Moved by Deputy Mayor Hudel, second by Councillor Hermer. Be resolved, the council approves the agenda dated November 21st, 2025 as amended to consider bylaw 2025-53 official plan amendment and 2025-54 zoning bylaw amendment regarding the fully lane to follow the report in 9A.
Any further comments? In favor? Okay, which is carried. So we have an amended agenda. Is there any any disclosure of opinion interest, the general nature thereof? Councilor Hudel?
Yes, I have a conflict on item 11C. Due to my daughter's business relationship with certain kid.
Anything else? We got that. Item 5, business profile for Artisan Night.
Moved by Councillor Hermer, seconded by Deputy Mayor Hudel. Be it resolved, the council receives for information the business profile of Artisan Nights provided by the Economic Development tab.
Comments? Thank you, Howard.
Just like to point out the product that this individual produces is really, really nice. They're very artistic.
Thank you. Anybody else? In favor? Carried. Presentations, we have Joel Weed, the panels, right? Okay. Senior Advisor of Community Relations, also High Speed Rail. You turn the mic on. Depending which mic you got, we may have to do the.
How's this? All right, perfect. Thank you so much for having me. Appreciate this opportunity to make a delegation to yourselves. So I'm Joel Weeb, and I'm Senior Advisor of Community Relations with Alto, and I'm based out of Ontario, based out at Norwood and covered in Ontario. So I'm going to give a bit of an update on this project. So started with an announcement in February by then Prime Minister Trudeau that via HFR became Alto, federal crown corporation that is now mandated to deliver a high-speed rail project that would bring 60% of Canada's population closer together. Zeroing in on the specific challenges this project aims to address, Alto's high-speed rail project will help to improve productivity throughout the corridor and surrounding areas by addressing increased travel costs at fuel, vehicle maintenance, and infrastructure maintenance, alleviating congestion on major highways and in airports, and bringing disconnected communities closer together through a convenient mode of transportation that reduces greenhouse gas emissions and improves quality of life through an enhanced passenger experience. The project will run on 1,000 kilometers of dedicated electrified track. Our service will be fast, reliable, and frequent. Reaching speeds of 300 kilometers an hour will reduce travel times throughout the Toronto to Quebec City corridor. Given the specific design requirements for this technology, we will need new track dedicated to moving people only, which has the benefit of increased reliability to ensure trains arrive on time and bring you where you need to go when you expect it. We're targeting frequent departures with 20 to 30 trains daily that would enable convenient options and accommodate a flexible travel schedule. So here you can see the 7 station locations. So we have Toronto, Peterborough, Ottawa, Laval, Montreal, Trois-Rivières, and Quebec City. We don't have an alignment yet. That's what we're working on, which is why you just see the station areas. In the coming months, we will share corridor concepts within which the alignment will be located. Refining down to a specific route using technical analysis that includes safety, design, the environment, and social considerations. So travel times between city stations will be significantly reduced. You'll be able to get from downtown Toronto to Ottawa in 2 hours or Montreal in 3. These will be commuting distances for people that would never have considered potentially working in those cities and going back and forth. From an economic perspective, high-speed rail is projected to contribute to an increase of 1.1% Canada's GDP, or $24 billion annually. Through increased productivity, with cities being brought closer together, higher participation in the workforce, and increased tourism. There are several other outcomes from this project, including a meaningful contribution toward reconciliation with Indigenous peoples, with whom Alto has been engaging for several years, an increase in rail travel adoption resulting in safer travel between cities, reduced environmental impact with fewer cars on the road, an enhanced passenger experience in the corridor means you can multitask or just enjoy the ride while you travel. The project will also strengthen the Canadian economy by sourcing goods and services right here. We will need substantial volumes of steel, aluminum, and concrete for our track, trains, buildings, overpasses, and related infrastructure. We'll also need the people to build it. We're expecting this project to generate 50,000 jobs. Alto isn't doing this alone. In 2023, Transport Canada launched a rigorous RFP process to identify a project partner. This process closed in February of this year, with then Prime Minister Trudeau announcing that Alto would work with Cadence, which is a consortium of rail infrastructure companies based in Canada and France, with expertise in delivering transportation and high-speed rail projects around the globe. Over the next 4 years, we will identify the corridor and exact alignment. I know that question's come up already. Select station locations, complete the regulatory process, acquire the land, and finalize engineering design. At the end of the development, in 4 years, Alto and Cadence will present cost and timeline for a shovel-ready project to the federal government, after which we'll start construction. Being in the development phase means we are engaging with stakeholders, including local organizations and elected officials like yourselves, consulting Indigenous communities and facilitating their participation in the project, and establishing the corridor. We're aware that not all communities see themselves in this project, especially those who are not supported with one of the 7 station locations. Recognizing this, Alto is in the initial stages of creating a community benefits plan that will create sustained, measurable benefits for impacted communities along the rail alignment. The early vision for this program includes a focus on economic opportunities through employment and procurement for local businesses. Want to share our plans for the coming months. Alta will launch a comprehensive engagement process. We will offer several open houses and virtual information sessions and an online platform that will focus on educating the public on high-speed rail and give participants an opportunity to share insights that will help inform the project decision-making process. As these dates are confirmed, we will post these online and share them with the municipalities, so it can be shared with the public to come and learn more. Underpinning our engagement here at Alto are principles that ensure that we are open, transparent, and that we reflect local needs across the corridor through respectful communications with an inclusive and collaborative approach. And with that, I'd like to thank you for this opportunity and emphasize that our priority continues to be on building awareness of the project and sharing information with municipalities throughout the corridor. Thanks so much for this opportunity.
Are you taking some questions?
Absolutely. I'll try and answer them as best I can.
Councilor Penalty.
Okay, so there's a lot of population between Peterborough and Ottawa. How are they gonna get access to this high-speed travel?
Well, we're working on the different supports that would come with it, but we will have stations in downtown Toronto and one in Peterborough. And so they'll have to facilitate their best way to connect to one of those. There are within that, you're talking the Peterborough to Toronto corridor, there is quite a bit of last mile transit available for people. And so we will be working with our partners who provide those services.
Quite a distance, so for some people to travel. Connect with the train.
So you're talking Toronto to Peterborough section, correct?
Well, Peterborough to Ottawa, like.
Okay,
a lot of
yes,
Population in between. Like
yes, different story there. Yeah.
Belleville and Kingston, it's gonna be difficult.
Yeah, and that's one of the challenges that comes with this project. The more stops we have along the way, we lose the ability to have high-speed rail when you're doing 300 kilometers an hour. We can't stop very often, or it really impedes the service. And so this was the mandate that was put out by the federal government with our 7 station locations, and we're working within that to try and maximize benefits for your community. And so I know it's a bit of a haul for the stop. I drove it this morning in from, and I wasn't even fully in Peterborough. I get it. And so we will try and work with your community and others along the route to find as many benefits as we can for your community, for your businesses, and potentially still facilitate people to take this train to for business or pleasure, or go visit their kids at school or whatever it might be.
I certainly look forward to anything to improve it over what we have.
Appreciate that.
Flower.
So two questions. I'm looking at the map when I see Laval and Montreal are quite close, and they're practically the same city. Is there a reason for that?
That was a decision put out by the federal government for us to fulfill. So,
And the other thing is I was on a committee many years ago, and we were talking about the high frequency train coming through, and we're having a station at Charlotte Lake, which was an agreement at that time, but this is a long distance, so like Nikki said, between Ottawa and Peterborough, and a lot of the people in the middle are going to miss out.
yeah, and in previous roles I've been in our community, I'm very familiar with the former HFR route, and I had quite a few more stops than what we're looking at with the high-speed rail. And this was the decision. The business case was there to get people there quicker rather than having the more frequency. And so leave it with the team who worked the numbers and said this is the one that's going to fit to make this. And we do want this rail line in the end to be something self-sustaining as far as generating revenue, and this was the model that appealed.
Deputy Mayor.
Yeah, thank you for the presentation. I think it's a great idea, something that Canada can have. You go to Europe, there's high-speed rail everywhere. About time, and I'm glad to hear that it's electrification. That's another positive. But when I look at the map and I see from Peterborough, Ottawa, I see North Frontenac right in the middle, and you haven't decided where the corridors are going. Is that correct?
Correct.
So you're here to present to us. Has there been thoughts of where the corridors are going?
So this is partly to inform you that come early winter, so January to March, we were going to be doing consultations throughout the whole quarter. And you're going to see it's still quite broad as far as where we're looking. This geography is very challenging. There's a lot of social considerations to take into effect as well. A lot of stakeholders, farmers, recreational clubs, all of those groups to figure out what's the route that's going to work well, that's going to be straight, that's going to be flat, which I'm sure you can appreciate around here is not easy to come by, but then has minimal impact for all of those who enjoy this area between Peterborough and Ottawa. And so I don't have, we don't have an exact alignment, but come the winter, we'll give you at least a closer idea of roughly where we're looking to go as our team continues to refine that down. And so we'll appreciate more consultations in the new year. And this is something I'd love to keep up fairly regularly to keep you updated as we go through this.
Appreciate that. Mr. Ingles, then Councilor Burke.
I think the deputy mayor asked my question, why are you talking to us? You're not gonna stop here. We don't know if we're gonna go through our township or not. I suspect not. The geography gets more challenging as you go further north. Gonna talk to Greater Madawaska, north of the Madawaska River. What's your mandate?
My mandate is to visit all the municipalities that are interested in hosting us for a delegation that are within what we've identified as the potential corridor. So you are within that rough area. Will it come through? I don't know for sure if that will actually come through your township or not. We also want to come in and have a conversation before we have those lines in the map. And somebody says, oh, this is going to impact, my farm, the snowmobile trails in our community, whatever it is. We want to, and my role in community relations is to find out what are those things that are important within your community that we need to make sure that don't necessarily show up on things like traffic studies and maps that are important that we need to take into consideration as we potentially go through. And that may dictate whether or not this is whatever challenges or opportunities are available locally may dictate where this rail line goes. And so happy to have more conversations, not just with yourselves, but with the community as well.
Yes, my understanding is this train takes about 7 kilometers to make a corner.
Correct.
The original corridor, they were talking about Delta found out the old train tracks now. It is very unlikely that they would make that because there's so many, not 90-degree corners, but not certain corners, so that's likely out of the question. My understanding is this person is very knowledgeable about this process, that it's actually going to go through down valley, closer to Belleville, it's the down valley and down the Strata. It's not even looking too north, not like this way. It's just this Canadian Shield is not made for the through.
So going back to that map that has the station locations, that's exactly why we're not trying to tell you where it will go, because it could go. We'll be doing meetings down by Sterling and not quite down to the 401 corridor, but significantly south of here. There are quite a few options for this and a lot of different considerations to take in. And you're correct about the old rail beds. Again, I don't know exactly where the rail line will go, and there may be a few areas where it makes sense to either run on old rail beds or go beside existing lines, but it's not an objective of ours because while we don't look at freight trains as being particularly nimble, they can turn much tighter than a high-speed passenger train can for sure.
So I was in Florida when they built Brightline. And they had some level crossings in Miami, Fort Lauderdale, and then up in New Orleans. We had Port Canaveral. These things moved so fast. It was like 1 person a week was dying. Because we're looking at a 40-mile-an-hour freight, and here's something coming in at 200 miles an hour. What's the plan to keep that, prevent that from happening?
We will have no level crossings whatsoever on this rail line. It's like you say, it's not safe. It's not safe for people on the train. It's not safe for people in the communities. It's not safe for wildlife. So we will be working, within the infrastructure that's here to provide under or overpasses, whatever makes sense, depending on where we are. But yeah, there will be no level crossings.
So is that possibly going to impact the road network?
Absolutely. I'm sure you're familiar with, the challenges that go with building that kind of infrastructure. And that's again, where we want to make sure that we're connecting with communities to prioritize what transportation needs to be placed at a higher value that again, might not show up in a traffic study, but your farmers, your hunters, your cottagers highly value certain routes that are, crucial to your businesses or hauling aggregates or whatever it might be. We want to find out those things so that those are held up as a priority which again is part of the role of being here and further follow-ups with your team and your businesses and the community and residents.
Welcome.
Well, what's the frequency of the run? Is it once a day, every 4 hours?
We're looking at 20 to 30 trains a day. So frequent.
Anyone else? This presentation was presented to the Eastern Road Conference, or a version of it, probably 6 months ago. And the idea of having one stop in the middle between Ottawa and Peterborough was made quite clear. And everybody to the north of us would come down to Charlotte area, whatever, but obviously when you talk about a corridor like that, farther south you go, you're in the farmland, and farther north you go, the geography, not so much. So we'll be in this to see the last time.
I'm interested as well to find out what happens.
Thank you very much for your presentation, Joel.
Appreciate it.
You're welcome to stay, or you
I'm-
can drive safe.
Happy to come back anytime as well. Thank you very much for having me.
Next up, need a motion for that? Okay, sorry, I apologize.
Right. Moved by Deputy Mayor Hudel, second by Councillor Hermer. Be it resolved, the council receives for information a presentation from Joel Webb, Senior Advisor for Community Relations, Alto, regarding a proposed high-speed passenger railway system connecting Toronto, Peterborough, Ottawa, Montreal, Laval, Trois-Rivières, and Quebec, and thanks him for his time spent today.
Any comments? In favor? Okay. Okay, that takes us to 2025 update to our strategic plan. Those of you who don't know this gentleman presenting is the township chief administrative officer, Cole Brown.
Okay, so as you know, we 2024, we completed a strategic plan and we're committed to updating it committed to reviewing it annually. So this is our first annual review of the plan. And it's the timing's important because budget talks will be coming up in a couple of weeks. So this is that's why this time was chosen. Oh, before I start, I'd like to thank the managers and Taylor Cooper behind me. She put this together for me. So between her and canvassing all the managers, they did a wonderful job putting this together. So our strategic priorities involve vibrant and inclusive community, economic prosperity, sustainable core services, and environmental stewardship. Township's vision is empowering our community and protecting our environment. The mission is committed to communities' well-being by delivering efficient, sustainable, and inclusive services that enrich lives while protecting the environment. Our values: progressive, inclusive, transparent, accountable, and sustainable. So we'll start out by talking about the vibrant and inclusive communities. So promote the first realm was to promote a healthy lifestyle, and our outcomes are increased community engagement. But I think what I'll do is I'll just kind of go through the updates and tell you where we're at with each of these. So this was the fire chief's responsibility, this section. Fire Prevention Week hosted joint interdepartment. So wildland fire training, conducted door-to-door smoke alarm and inspection campaigns. Promoted fire life safety at the following: Winterfest, Summerfest, Fire Department Open House, local school presentations, Seniors and Law Enforcement Together SALT presentation, Essential Services Fair in August of 2025. The fire department was successful applicant for a 2024 fire protection grant. And we've applied for funding through the 2025 Ontario Fire Protection Grant as well. Fire Department Christmas celebration to recognize achievements of volunteer firefighters and first responders, and Fire Department potluck dinners, etc. to promote team work. So then we'll go on to increased community engagement. So the MCD is in charge of this one. So this is 2024 and ongoing. So in 2025, the community grant program was successful. We had a volunteer appreciation dinner in October, which was successful, posting all council task force and committee meeting dates 2 days prior on social media. printed visitors guides, and continue to communicate via Facebook and Twitterly, former X of the township website, Engage Frontenac and Municipal 511. Increased four-season tourism and recreational opportunities. So we've advertising in Frontenac Recreation Guide, Summer and Fun Guide, attendance at the trade show, and county continues to develop and enhance the KMP Trail with support from the township. Continued provision of safe, efficient, and enhanced recreational facilities, trails, and parks. Grant received for rehabilitation of the Glovna Rink and pickleball courts, which is in progress right now. And provided donations to local trail group to rehabilitate the Crotch Lake Trail, Lindisloop. So we're going to provide support to community partners for healthcare, senior, and youth services. So the desired outcome was to increase numbers of doctors, nurse practitioners, and other healthcare professionals. So the township renewed commitment to contribute to doctor incentive to Lakeland's family health team of $15,000 a year for 5 years, beginning in 2024, which resulted in a new doctor in the area in this last year. Township contributed $10,000 to Smith Falls Hospital and Lennox Nottingham Hospital for MRI machines, and letter of support for Lakeland's family health doctor for residency. Affordable accommodations. So 2025, council appointed a housing advisory task force with Mayor Litchfield as the chair. So that's coming up. We'll see some progress continue with that throughout the near future. Increased collaboration with community service agencies. So we've provided grant funding for Meals on Wheels, Christmas hamper program funding, provide funding to the SALT program, contribute to Rural Frontenac Community Services intergenerational programming, and provide use of our facilities. Contribute to Rural Frontenac Community Services. Move that up a bit, please, go. After school program. So there's quite a bit of funding that we've been involved in to help these and to support these programs. Support inclusivity, raised awareness of income and lifestyle disparities throughout the township. So Central Fruit Services Fair in 2025, annually recognized Pride Month via social media and hang flag for the month of June. Mental Health Awareness Month in June, social media posts, signage, green ribbons annually, etc. Then we'll move into enhancing support for community organizations and agencies that provide assistance to the least advantaged members of our community. So annual donations to the food banks, seniors home support programs, seniors and law enforcement together, communication regarding that, community grant program, and contribute funding to the SWIM program. Well, the point of this whole thing is to see we're moving along really nicely with our strategic plan and accomplishing a lot of our goals that we just developed last year. So it's great. Continued support for local schools. So 2025, we did a contest for elementary school children regarding fire chief for a day and mock council contest, which is pretty awesome. I think the winner gets a badge and gets to go out to lunch with both of our fire chiefs, and it's a pretty big deal for them. Actually, they love it, so it's pretty awesome. Schools receive annual donations via our budget. Schools also have an opportunity to apply for a community grant program. So Clarendon Central was approved for $950 in 2025 for kitchen appliances, and North Addington approved for $1,000 for iPads. 2026 budget deliberations include discussions regarding local government events throughout the future. So we'll move into the next category of economic prosperity. And so to start that off is enhance and support the local economy. So increased numbers of business startups and expansions. 2025 economic community development student business outreach and marketing. So we hired a student this past summer, which worked out well and to help with this. And then we had a business dinner and breakfast, which went well. Stable funding provided for economic development. So council approved hiring of the student position that I just talked about. We'll look at that again for 2026 and budget deliberations again. Council provided funding for trade show and festivals in 2025. And we've just started, our economic development task force has just started meetings with Central Frontenac regarding potential savings and ways we can work together to enhance for both our municipalities. Economic of the community CIP. So council approved $15,000 to fund the CIP in 2025. The funding is all allocated to businesses at this time. So they've started to review that, and then reports will be brought back to council in the new year for consideration for a few changes to it to make it more available for the businesses. Enhance and support the local economy, continued support for economic development task force. So council report approved the 2025 economic development task force work plan as amended. And sufficient staff and resources to support economic development, 2025 economic and community development student again, and funded winter and summer festivals, business events, etc. Potential for development opportunities, implementation of development policies that encourage the provision of a wide range of housing options, amenities, and services within a convenient distance. So delegated authority for site plan severances completed via bylaw 2024-10, community planning permit system countywide template is being created. Open house was August 16th, and once the template is completed, each township will consider township specific policies. The official plan amendment, site plan control, fall, winter 2025 and 26. So that's coming up. Additional residential units. Open house was August 7th on communal services. OPA being drafted for consideration. Open house was held June 6th, 2025. The preparation will continue with that potential development opportunities, increased tourism. So installation of new fast chargers for public usage, stargazing events at the stargazing pad were ongoing and a success again this year. Support for development of the KMP Trail, which is moving along nicely, enhancements to the Crown Land Stewardship Program, and again, the 2025 Visitors Guide updated and printed for distribution. Promotion of a range of housing options. So again, the Housing Advisory Task Force was created this year. An official plan amendment for accessory residential units in the process. So promotion of a range of housing options to provide affordable housing, including public-private partnerships. So again, the 2025 creation of the Housing Advisory Task Force and official plan amendment for accessory residential units, again, in process. And then identify opportunities for efficiencies. So additional cost-saving partnerships and or shared services for efficiencies. So joint EDTF meeting with Central Frontenac regarding potential partnerships and cost sharing for economic development issues. Continued joint partnerships for waste site and fire services. We have good partnerships in place right now with a few municipalities, and a joint request for proposal for a new website. So that will hopefully save some money. So we'll move into sustainable core services. So continue to invest in municipal infrastructure, enhance standards for roads and other core and non-core infrastructure. So we have a new asset management plan, which was approved by council in July, and it's updated every 5 years. Operators are using electronic patrol inspection reports, and we continue to enhance our tracking of assets and providing of greater guidance and annual fire apparatus and equipment maintenance and testing. Long-term plans for municipal buildings relative to safety, functionality, and affordability. So we completed asbestos training, testing, all required municipal buildings, and accessibility improvements to the Plevna Library coming up. Integration of the asset management plan into township capital and operational planning. Per the asset management plan, we will be approximately 1 to 15 years, depending on the availability of grants, to be fully funded. Current council has committed to an annual increase to support the asset management plan. And enhancement of township roads, parking areas, and boat launches. So reconstruction of Mountain Road, Section 1 of South Levant Road and the Mattawatchin Road. Improvements to the Brewery Lake launch. Mackey Marble and Helen Lane continue working with the MNR for approvals. So that's still on the go. It's just taking some time to get our approvals for that. And bylaw sign is purchased for future installation. Move into the improved governments and use of community halls. New accessible entrance doors were installed at Clare Mill and Berry Hall this year. And we're getting grant ready for accessibility renovation to the Clare Mill Hall washrooms. Streamlined access to township services through new technology. So implemented the community hall booking software in 2024, which is going very well. And we implemented DocuSign, which allows us to sign agreements over the internet, which has been a big time saver for us. Asset management plan embedded in township operations. That's in progress. Roads Department has started using the software for work orders and patrol. And then being prepared for shovel-ready projects, so that when funds become available, we're ready to submit an application. So establishment of protocols for regular contact with provincial and federal authorities for early notice of potential programs. We'll review that in 2026. That's ongoing. Regular communication with the MP and MPP on various initiatives. The mayor's really has great communication with both of those, which has been really great for us. Staff and council attended provincial initiatives and updates throughout the year with various agencies. And the mayor participates in biannual meeting with MP and MPP. Pre-planning in all departments for shovel-ready opportunities. So the Buckshot Lake Road project from 506, 509 past the Clare Mill Hall is shovel-ready. Culvert replacement on Shabomeek Lake Road is shovel-ready, and engineering being completed for the Clare Mill Hall bathrooms to be shovel-ready for future grant opportunities. Optimized waste management practices through diversion, recycling, and repurposing. So desired outcome, but we'll talk about reduced use of landfills. So grinding of construction, demolition, waste awarded, and working to reopen the Ardoch waste site to take advantage of available capacity and reduce pressures. Increased volume of recyclables. The mattress recycling program has been reviewed in detail and isn't practical for North Frontenac given the requirements of the service provider. We are reviewing options. Transition to two-stream recycling systems has been completed, and we're working with Circling Materials on an agreement for January 1st, 2026 to complete the transfer of responsibility for the Blue Box program. Lots more information to come on that. Enhancement of repurposing programs, significant upgrade solar system with 12-volt lighting, fans, and air vents. Next section is to establish the township as an employer of choice. So organizational review and compensation review completed every 5 years. It actually is it's more the compensation review, not an org review every 5 years. So we'll get that updated. So the CAO include costing in 2026 budget deliberations for the compensation review for your consideration. Enhanced training opportunities for all staff and members of the fire department. Annual staff appreciation event in December. Considerable training delivered this year in public works for operators, public works foreman, and the public works manager. Firefighters are participating in fire fit competitions and lots of fire department training that's now become mandatory. So there's lots of that going on. So we'll get into environmental stewardship. So to establish an environmental task force comprised of councilors, staff, and community stakeholders, develop and promote programs to protect the environment, which is well underway. So development of policies and programs to protect the environment. So the RFP for the natural heritage study has been released with a deadline of October 23rd for the submission of proposals. The work plan for the county official plan update was presented to PDAC on September 21st. The CPPS bylaw template to be finalized by county staff this fall and sent for a legal review, and mandatory septic reinspection at time of sale is being researched. Development of an action plan to manage, mitigate climate change impacts. Environmental task force is working on BESS and net metering proposals. Communicate directly with the province whenever available and keep links of communication open at all times. So follow up with contacts throughout the year. So again, as mentioned earlier, the mayor has frequent contact with the MP and MPP and has biannual meetings with the MP and MPP, and then collaboration with municipal organizations and other municipalities to advocate for desired change. Advocated strong mayor powers and EV charging costs. Ongoing, Eurasian water milfoil and access to telecommunications infrastructure. Communicate directly with the province when available, keep links. So again, we'll continue on with that. Regular communication with provincial authorities. So the treasurer attended Roma and MFOA conference in 2025. The CAO treasurer and clerk attended MMAH briefings throughout 2025. CAO and MCD attended the 2025 OEMC conference in Ottawa. Public Works Manager and Public Works Foreman attended Good Roads in 2025. Public Works Manager attended sessions for minimum maintenance standards. Clerk Planning Manager and Deputy Clerk attended the 2025 OAC. What's OAC, Tara? Sorry.
Association Committee.
Thank you. And the DSFC OAFC Annual General Meeting and Trade Show. So collaboration with county staff to modernize the process for calculation on lake capacity. So 10-year review is due in 2027. So that's upcoming. Questions? It's a long one.
Um,
Thank you, Corey, for your presentation. When I look at this and I go, wow, now we have such a small staff, so I want to say thank you to you and all your staff members for doing all this work. It's an incredible amount of work that is done, and I know we're limited in how much staff we have here, so congratulations on that. That was an amazing job. I also like to thank the volunteers on our committees because they do a lot of work too also. So it's important that they're recognized because a lot of this is done by committee members. It's a great job. Thank you.
Thanks. I'll forward that on to the staff as well.
I just want to comment on the difficulties we have as a very small township relative to, say, Kingston or Ottawa. If we raise $7 million or so in taxes, and it's such a huge portion of that money raised has to go to eroding, far more than in a large township, but they would do it within the city. So what's left over for all the icing on the cake, the interesting stuff, the good stuff, the impacts quality of life is so small. It's such a challenge every year. Where do we put this few dollars? After all these years, nothing has changed. It's still the same old story.
You don't forget the 1.2 million of video. That's 30 million. Yeah. We really think we'll get 6 million. Anyone else? Comments?
Just one quick comment. You were talking about the engagement with the community with the fire prevention and stuff like that. I just want to let you know that Adam or some of the staff, they go around to all the lake associations. So that's a great thing to, when they talk about fire prevention. So I didn't see that on the list, but that's another item.
Absolutely. There's lots. There may be a few things that we've missed too, but
So we went through this before we started, and I didn't get it up at the time, but when you're a member of the public and you're reading through this, there's a number of acronyms that you read that and so on. I probably wasn't going to know. So can we, if we do this again, one week and next year, we have a definition very similar. This means this, whatever. it is.
yeah, or we can just get rid of the acronyms too.
That will.
Sure.
That'll be good.
Yes, just wonder if, the next meeting, we have a public rate update as to the, are we on budget? Where it is at?
Sure.
There. No, okay. Councilor English?
Thank you. What's the process here, Corey? Is this this is an annual review, so you told us what's in it. Who has made any changes to date to give you what you presented? Are you looking for further input?
Not unless you guys have changes that you want to make. So if we get down the road and you have changes you want to make, then we can discuss that and we can bring it back to council for information. Right now, it's more a review because your budget's coming up and it really, this should be reflected within your budget that you have a strategic plan and its guidelines for you to help you with your discussions for that.
The very last item is interesting to me, additional considerations for lake capacity. I was talking about this with Bill Gallivan in 2011. What's coming up in 2027? Is there there's all kinds of ideas about how you might define lake capacity that don't exist now. There's something, is there a hard limit in 2027, a new document?
I'd defer that one to Tara or planning.
It was on the environmental task force plan. But it's kind of got to be working. It's a huge project. There's a lot of different meetings involved in the Ministry of Environment, conservation authorities, things like that. So it's good.
That's how things get kept down the way forever.
Comments? None?
Moved by Councilor Homer, seconded by Deputy Mayor Hudel. Be it resolved that council receives for information the chief administrative officer's presentation entitled 2024 to 2028 strategic plan 2025 update.
In favor? Carried. And I'm gonna ask again, can we get that mic? replaced for deep six or something. Okay, causes more problems than it's worth. Thank you. Okay, so we have Sally McIntyre from NBC online.
Yes, we've got to bring her into the meeting and sorting out her presentation.
Okay, so we're going to be joined by Sally McIntyre, the General Manager of Mississippi Valley Conservation Authority, talking about the summary of changes and comments regarding proposed changes under the Conservation Authorities Act. Electronic participation. No. Okay, folks, we're trying to connect with Ms. McIntyre. She's scheduled to be here at 10 o'clock, so it's 9:47. So we're going to take a break just a few minutes before 10. Welcome back to the Township of North Frontenac's meeting, council meeting for Friday, November the 21st. Sorry, Friday, November the 21st. Okay, next up is item 6C. We have Sally McIntyre, the General Manager of the Mississippi Valley Conservation Authority. She has asked to address us concerning proposed changes under the Conservation Authority Act. Sally, the floor is yours.
Okay, great. Thank you very much, everyone. Just to confirm, you can see the PowerPoint?
Yes, we can.
Okay, terrific. So I just wanted to give you a bit of background information, then explain to you the changes that are coming down the pipe and a bit of discussion around that. So the background information is, as most of you I hope are aware, MVCA has been around for over 50 years now. It was established in '68. And it's when the municipalities and the jurisdictions of the Mississippi and Carp River watersheds decide to come together to collectively manage aging infrastructure, natural hazards, and enhance land conservation in the region. And it is our municipal decision makers, yourselves, and the other municipalities that are govern MVCA. And over those years, MVCA has built and maintained and operated dams and made sure, particularly in recent years, we've made huge investments in conducting dam safety reviews and improving the infrastructure. We also provide live water data on our website and issue warnings to people about flooding. And we deliver various stewardship and education programs. And importantly, we are located within the watershed and are accessible to yourselves and your residents, and you do pay the ticket. And this year, our budget was roughly 68% paid by municipal levies from yourselves and the other 10 municipalities. So we do consider ourselves a creature of municipal government and, a partner in the delivery of services to your communities. So under the current CA Act and as amended, that is a large feature of what CAs are about. CAs were only formed where municipalities want them. And in fact, the province changed the legislation in 2020 to enhance your role in oversight of us. So not only do you appoint people, but they strengthened the language to ensure that the people you put on our board were elected members accountable to your ratepayers. As well, to ensure that there was a balance of opinions at the board table, the institute a program whereby our chair and vice chair have to rotate at least once every 2 years amongst municipalities. So you cannot have for a continuous 4-year period the same municipalities or having that kind of legislative control at the board table. What the province is proposing will likely undermine that. First off, is proposing to consolidate the 36 CAs into 7 very large regions. The proposal is that MVCA would merge with Rideau Valley Conservation Authority, South Nation, Cataraqui, and Raisin region, and basically cover the area from yourselves in the north down to Kingston and all the way out east to Cornwall. So it's a huge area of roughly 18,500 square kilometers. So whereas today you constitute roughly 25%, just over 25% of our jurisdiction, North Frontenac would constitute a much smaller area within this larger region. They're also proposing to form a new Crown agency that would oversee the activities of these regional conservation authorities and oversee that amalgamation process. So where we stand right now is that Bill 68, which would allow for formation of the agency, is in second reading in the House. And all matters relating to the amalgamation are currently posted on the Environmental Registry with a deadline to comment late December. So this is an image that illustrates the proposed regional conservation area. And it's worthy to note that our jurisdiction is the only jurisdiction in this area that has significant infrastructure and where the authority actually manages and controls flows across the entire watershed. Both the Rideau and Cataraqui, those river systems are managed by the federal government, by Parks Canada on the canal system. And then South Nation and Raisin region have very limited infrastructure within their jurisdictions. They're very flat watersheds, and they mostly, well, the Raisin mostly drains to the St. Lawrence. So what we know about what's being proposed with respect to the agency is that they actually have fairly broad-reaching powers. So not only are they to oversee the amalgamation, but they're to oversee the governance of authorities and including matters such as our operations and programs and services. So they would have the power to issue directives to these regional CAs, and I've listed their strategic planning, budget, asset management, procurement, IT, service standards, performance targets, and indicators. So to my mind, when I read that list, I'm thinking that's what I currently report to my board on. So there's a tremendous amount of potential overlap between the current board and the way they operate in their powers and what this agency could direct. It's also to lead the development and implementation of digital strategies. One of the key items they're looking at is the implementation of a province-wide online permitting system. Nobody's disputing that might be a good tool to have. However, they are looking to require the payment of fees regarding various matters related to its activities. And that they're going to be allowed to recover those fees from these regional CAs, which I presume will continue to be funded by municipalities such as yourselves, and that these can come also in the form of apportionment levies. So what is unusual about what the province is proposing here is that the municipalities would fund an agency designed to oversee them. Unique, I would say. So what we don't know is quite a lot, and they all generally relate to matters of governance and funding. So first of all, Though the document says, well, representation will be based upon what the CA Act says. If you read the Act as it's currently worded, we would be looking at a board in excess of 70 people, which I think everybody would acknowledge is impractical. So invariably, I strongly suspect they're going to change that. And the question is, how are they going to change that? How will your municipality and other municipalities within our jurisdiction continue to have a voice at the table? And also, how is this overlap of responsibilities going to be addressed? Because anybody who's sitting at that board table at the regional CA would want to know that their position and activities are actually meaningful. Future municipal levies, as I mentioned, it currently sits at 68% for municipalities. We receive less than or approximately 5% of our funding through a combination of transfers from the province and the federal government. So we suspect costs are going to go up through this process. And the question is, whose portion is going to go up? Is it going to be the municipalities, the province, or the feds? So I say that because amalgamation does cost money. I think anybody who's been through it knows that there are cancellations of contracts and leases, buyout packages, and wage harmonization, right? So, and rarely do wages go down. So invariably, there are going to be costs associated with amalgamation that will probably have long-lasting impacts. And then, as I mentioned, there's a variety of projects that are proposed to be undertaken, and that we may, as regional CAs, be directed to implement. And if you're directed to implement it, does that mean you're going to have to pay for it, or is the province going to be funding those sorts of initiatives and directives? And then with respect to, for instance, that permitting system, because the agency is to do cost recovery for its services, are they going to charge the regional CAs for ongoing technical support of that system and for any user support? So you can see how there's a variety of unknowns on how these things are going to be rolled out. And similarly, what other sorts of fees could the regional CAs be hit with to enable this agency to operate? No less important is what's going to happen to our reserves. You and our other member municipalities have made significant increase in capital reserve contributions in the past few years because we know about the cost of the infrastructure to be renewed. We're in detailed design of Kashwakamak like right now. We're looking to start construction maybe late next year or 2027. So that's a $6 million project, and we've been building our reserves not just for that, but all sorts of other projects that we need to undertake. So what's going to happen to those reserves? Will they be tied back to this watershed? And then lastly, we entered into Category 2 and 3 MOUs with yourselves and all the other municipalities in our jurisdiction. We have one of the lowest rates of percentage of your municipal levy that goes towards those services. We sit at roughly 5% of the municipal levy. You guys actually approved 14%, and we've been working it down year over year to try to get it down. I can tell you that I know of one other CA within this proposed jurisdiction where they're sitting at 19%. So there's very different approaches on the scope, scale, and cost of those Category 2 and 3 programs. So how are those costs going to be controlled going forward? So what we do know are the risks. So I think anybody who's been through amalgamation, and I have, knows it takes years to implement and it's costly. There's often service disruptions. There's a slowing of business processes and projects during that period. It can result in a reduction in public access to frontline staff through office closures and a reallocation of staff within the organization that can also result in a loss of corporate knowledge and continuity. And I think there is a very real risk that municipalities will lose control over local decisions, spendings, and levies, both because of this politically appointed agency that has a mandate to do full cost recovery to the best of our knowledge, and the proposed regional CA, which has totally unknown governance at this time and no announcements regarding funding. So If the province is to proceed with amalgamation, the criterion that they put forward are very limited. And I'm suggesting that these additional criteria be considered because there hasn't been adequate consideration of governance, customer service, etc. So these are some of the principles I would suggest that we put forward to the province. This first one obviously being financial fairness. By the creation of this extraordinarily large area that drains to both the Ottawa River and the St. Lawrence River, you're going to see a movement of money amongst jurisdictions beyond, people's watersheds. It's going to be significant, I suspect. Operational effectiveness. We all know you live and operate and maintain a large geographic area in the township there. Travel times matter, and over such a huge area, you get into issues of management of supervisory management. How do you maintain customer service? And then logical things like spans of control. What does that look like? Governance effectiveness. Kudos to North Frontenac. I have to say, your representatives and almost all the representatives in our jurisdiction show up. And that's a big thing because not all CAs can say that. You guys show up to our meetings, even though it's a significant distance. And as a result of that, and so many people showing up for our meetings, there's good board cohesion. There is good discussion and debate that happens at our table. There's frankness, there's openness, there's candidness, and there's respect. And that only happens when you meet in person or on a regular basis. And I strongly suspect that under this new model, that will be much more difficult to achieve. And it's even questionable because depending on the board structure, if there are political appointments, et cetera, that will be a lot harder to achieve. Obviously, we have existing partnerships and we've worked hard, in your jurisdiction and others to work with the community. And we've already structured any number of agreements with our partner CAs to address many of the issues that the province is concerned about maintaining a baseline level of service across the jurisdictions. We have currently agreements with both Rideau Valley and South Nation. We share professional expertise so that we're not all trying to staff certain positions. We also have an agreement with Toronto Region Conservation Authority because we had a succession of Matt and Pat leaves over the past 2 years. And we needed to address that. So they helped to backfill for us as we're coping with a succession of these leaves. So it's not like CAs haven't been adapting and taking the actions needed to make ourselves sustainable and responsive. And then lastly, I think it's important to recognize that the Ottawa River and the St. Lawrence River are managed differently. They are both interjurisdictional water bodies. The Ottawa River is managed through a federal agency that has partnerships on both sides of the Quebec and Ontario border, whereas the St. Lawrence is part of the IJC, the International Joint Commission, which is between Canada and the United States. Very different funding models as well. So these are matters that really should be considered if they're going to look at going forward with this amalgamation concept. So my final slide to you is the value proposition. MVCA has been working for you and with you for over 50 years. We are locally responsible and fiscally accountable and customer oriented because our board is and our board is you. We met and exceeded our strategic objectives for the past 5 years. I reported out on that last month. We completed over 100 initiatives in the past 5 years. It was a phenomenal accomplishment given the numerous changes and regulatory requirement changes that came down the pipe from the province. We have currently a 97% success rate of meeting targeted timelines on our permit turnaround times. And we have an average of less than one request for a regulatory review per year. And I mean, it speaks for itself. We've made and continue to make significant investments in infrastructure in your jurisdiction and throughout our watershed. And we have consistently implemented provincial directives and adhered to provincial policy. We do not need regionalization to achieve that goal. So that in summary is my presentation. You have before you a draft, a set of draft motions that I would be very happy to answer any questions about my presentation or that motion, and look forward to any questions you have.
Thank you, Sally. We appreciate the presentation. Council, do you have questions? Deputy Mayor.
Thank you, Sally, for your presentation. As most of you know, I'm the chair of the Mississippi Valley Conservation Authority. And I can tell you that Sally and I have been meeting almost regularly now for the last couple of weeks to discuss this issue. So I would really like council to approve the motions that are before you on the agenda. Sally, just this Crown Agency, I'm still not 100%. Do we know who will pay for this Crown Agency?
Sorry, can you repeat the last bit of the question?
The Crown Agency, who's going to fund the Crown Agency?
So it's mandated to be cost recovered, like to do its own cost recovery. We've heard no announcements of whether or not it's going to get a pot of money initially, but the legislation is very clear that it is to issue, to charge fees and charge levies to cost recover for its services.
Judge, I'm just going to follow up with a few other questions. And my concern here in North Frontenac is, we've always talked about it, that we have so many of our assets in the MVCA are in North Frontenac. And I believe it's 7 dams, Sally, that we have here in North Frontenac. And you talked about Cachewackabak.
Yes.
And whenever I hear amalgamation, there's always costs overrun. And, you know, I look at the city of Toronto and they amalgamated years ago. I don't think they've saved any money, but that's a different topic. And then I look at the health units and what they went through. My concern is this amalgamation and this new conservation authority will be so large. How much downloading from the province will be put on the small municipalities? And we don't have an answer for that, but that's always a concern to me, considering we have so many dams that control flood, but we also have dams here in North Frontenac that are for recreational use. And what's going to happen to that in the future when we have such a large conservation authority that, and then you mentioned the St. Lawrence River, and I never even thought about that, but you're correct. It's an international body that monitors that. So that's a whole different issue that is triggering in my mind right now. And that's going to be part of it, and they will have so much power because that is really what it's all about. You know, the tankers and the ships going through the St. Lawrence, that level of the St. Lawrence is so important to the economy on both sides. So that's where the power is going to be. That's all it's.
Anyone else? So I used to work for the Municipal Affairs and Housing years ago in Harris here. Most of you may not know that, and you may remember it. And the amalgamation they figured would save on an annual basis 2 to 3% on millions of dollars. And it got so frustrating that they basically didn't do what they intended to do. It's just too expensive. The impact on staff, you lose the good staff because they don't like the uncertainty and they go elsewhere where they can find a job, and they will. The impact on the public was even more so. This is not necessarily a good thing. But even if you put that aside and say, okay, the province is right and they know more than we do, what's the impact on us? One dam alone is $6 million. Mind you, it's a bigger one. But even if it's $1 million dam or $2 million dam, where does that money come from if we're expected to pay for it? Or if we're part of a larger organization, and I mean the MVCA, how do we assure that the money is going to come to North Frontenac to rebuild those dams? It's going to be a last minute thing and so on. And City of Ottawa pays for a lot of this too, right? What do they say about this? Have you had any discussions with them?
I've provided some briefing to councillors, but we haven't presented to the City of Ottawa yet. The feedback that we've received in the media from the city is that they have a good working relationship with us. There's not an issue.
No, sir.
Sally, I think your preaching to the converted here. So my question is, we are a creature of the province's direction in every regard, including the existence of CAs. What the hell can we do? Do you have a suggestion? I mean, we can write a letter or several letters, to the province. I don't expect, there's an ideology here at the provincial level about centralization, I think, that we're fighting against. What's the most effective way to deal with that? We can yell at John Jordan all month.
Well, I think that in addition to sending, any motions and the like to our members of the legislature, wherever possible, we need to engage with them personally and make them understand that the risks are real, both financial, customer service, infrastructure, and that they only have to look at their own experiences around amalgamation. Because over the past 20, 30 years, we've all gone through it in some shape or form or been on the receiving end of it, right? So I don't know if there's a single organization that underwent amalgamation that can actually, at the end of the day, say it saved money. And I would challenge any, provincial, person to tell me that they have as equal or better success and turnaround rate than we do. One of the reasons why potentially we're looking at building Kashwakamach in 2027 is because the approval timelines on Shabamika were so elongated that we don't think it'll be feasible to get all the approvals in place for 2026.
Anyone else? Thank you very much for your presentation. I think we'll see what happens here, but I think we're all with you. Thank you.
Thank you very much, everybody. Have a great day.
Carol?
Moved by Deputy Mayor Hudel, seconded by Councillor Hermer. Be it resolved that council receives for information a presentation from Sally McIntyre, General Manager of Mississippi Valley Conservation Authority, regarding proposed changes under the Conservation Act, and thanks her for her time spent.
Any final comments? In favor? Carried.
Moved by Councillor Hermer, seconded by Deputy Mayor Hudel. Whereas the municipalities of the Mississippi and Carp River watersheds agreed to form a conservation authority in 1968 to address aging dam infrastructure, manage natural hazards, and enhance conservation. And whereas since 2020, over $3 million of municipal dollars have been invested in the operation, maintenance, and capital renewal of the 11 dams in 6 conservation areas within the jurisdiction of Mississippi Valley Conservation, including 7 dams in North Frontenac, with MVCA securing an additional $1.38 million in grants to implement those capital works. And whereas the 11 municipalities lying within MVCA's jurisdiction fund approximately 68% of the annual operating budget of MVCA, compared to a combined provincial and federal contribution of just 5%. And whereas the proposed St. Lawrence Regional Conservation Authority is to be over 18,500 square kilometers instead of 46 municipalities. Whereas the current municipal government model of proportional representation based upon municipal assessment value would be impractical, and local governance over local monies and local assets would be denied. And whereas Bill 68 plan to protect Ontario budget measures will allow the new provincial agency to direct the strategic direction, finances, and operational activities of the new Regional Conservation Authority, imposing additional costs on municipalities to fund the agency via fees levied on the new Regional Conservation Authority, and that per capita annual operating costs within MVCA's jurisdiction are predicted to increase from being one of the lowest at approximately $18 per capita per year. And whereas the Township of North Frontenac is supportive of the enhanced municipal control of the conservation authorities, which took effect in 2024 with the categorization of the conservation authority programs and services and signing of memorandums of understanding. And the Township recognizes that MVCA has made significant demonstrable improvements in operational effectiveness in recent years and is committed to continuous improvement. Whereas North Frontenac benefits from having conservation authority staff available locally that know our communities, developers, lake associations, and township staff. Now therefore be resolved that as Bill 68 has already undergone second reading and time is of the essence, North Frontenac Council advises to follow. Council does not support direct or indirect municipal funding of the proposed Ontario Conservation Authority agency. Two, council does not support formation of the proposed St. Lawrence Regional Conservation Authority outlined in Environmental Registry Notice 025-1257. Three, council requests that the ministry pause approval of the proposed St. Lawrence Regional Conservation Authority to allow for meaningful and timely engagement with the municipalities and conservation authorities of Eastern Ontario. Four, council requests the minister to examine alternative approaches to equalizing resources amongst CAs, including review of the annual provincial transfer to conservation authorities that were passed in 2019 and have remained unchanged since. And five, the council requests the ministry to facilitate consistency amongst CAs by updating provincial technical guidelines and inform permitting by conservation authorities in Ontario. And that council instructs the clerk to provide this resolution to the Environment Registry of Ontario consultation, the Minister of the Environment, Conservation and Parks, as well as the Opposition Critic, MPP John Jordan, the Association of Municipalities of Ontario, Conservation Ontario, and the other municipalities within the CAs.
No. Any final comment? In favor of the resolution? That resolution carried. We have no delegations. Adoption of the minutes.
Moved by Councilor Herbert, second by Councilor Fowler. Be it resolved that council adopts the minutes of a regular meeting held October 31st, 2025 as certain.
All right. In favor? Carried. Item 9A, business arising out of the minutes, resolution 26625, Foyer Lane, the official plan and zoning bylaw amendments.
Moved by Councilor Herbert, second by Deputy Mayor Feudal. Be it resolved that council receives for information a planning report addendum and attachments prepared by Jenny Kapusta, community planner with the County of Frontenac regarding official plan amendment file number OP 0222 and zoning bylaw amendment file number red 0822 for Arthur Palmerston Cottage Cooperative located at 1099 Beautiful Lane. The council will consider bylaws to amend the official plan and zoning bylaw later in the evening.
Which is item 9B. All right, folks. Comments?
It's, I read over the thing really carefully. And, I think there are some errors in the plan amendment. Both the county and North Frontenac official plans do support care of our lakes and shorelines. The Palmerston Lake is a unique lake in that it's a spring-fed trout lake. It has a natural gravel deposit known as Gravel Point, and at the end of Gravel Point is a trout spawn there. And I think, notwithstanding how much hard work the planning committee has done to prepare this and work into this, and I think there is an error in not giving more support to the shores and with regarding this.
Would it be possible to hear a short presentation from Jenny or Sonia?
No. No. We've been doing this for 2 years.
Well, there is new information.
Why do we need to do that? You've got it in front of you.
Yeah.
Does anyone? Anything else? Mr. Herman?
Well, I see this, an application such as this is a convenient way to possibly overdevelop a piece of property. Under normal circumstances and situations like this, it may not, development of this size may not be approved, but this is just a convenient way of surpassing that.
Anyone else? I looked at this, like, we've been at this a long time, our inboxes are full on both sides and whatever. I don't like, shouldn't have used the term side. on Wednesday at the council meeting, for the county, Sonia was there and she presented the official plan for South Frontenac. And in that, she used a comment about respecting the township's digital. So going back to 2019, when the zoning bylaw for North Frontenac was created, council had a vision. They were not appreciated what they were doing at the time, but now in 2025, we're dealing with it. So the vision at that time was no cooperative developments on Martin. So why are we changing this? Really isn't about the design of the site. I have no issue with the planners and the applicant's design, maybe a little tweak in there. My issue is, why would we change the zoning bylaw? It puts all that, if it goes to a cooperative, puts all that land under control of one organization or one individual. And giving all the credit to the current applicant. They do exactly what they say, then they sell it down the road for 15 years. And all of a sudden it becomes something totally different, which we have no control. Limited control. Once it's there, it's really hard to change that. So I'm gonna, I think we should respect what happened in 2019, not allow the zoning change. And I want to reiterate that I do respect what the planners have done, what the applicant has done, councilors have said, and all the input we have received. But it really comes down to, if you do this, we are setting a precedent for every lake in North London. We are a land of lakes. And I really don't want to do that. And even if this does go ahead or doesn't go ahead, I think we need to look at our bylaw, say, do we want this to happen in the future? Anybody else? I said, Councilor Inglis and Councilor Herman.
Well, the fact is, the existing zoning bylaw. I don't know exactly what happened. The current zoning bylaw does not.
Hasn't permitted either.
That means it doesn't. Certain zoning bylaw. Has certain other. But the current bill not prohibited. That's what I.
Councilor Herman?
Well, when I think of this, I look at reasonably clean fresh water as one of the most valuable resources this country has. That I think it's our duty and responsibility to ensure that we look after it as much as we humanly can.
Councilor Good, do you have any opinion on this? We're rather silent.
Yeah, actually I do. I've been watching this thing for the last how many years now. In this particular one here too, I asked the question earlier on, the other meetings there, like, has there ever been any drilling or underneath down, I'm not talking about 2 feet down, I'm talking about 10, 15 feet down. What is the material underneath there? Is it boulders, beach sand, or what is it? If we're putting in huge septic systems, which the more you add, the bigger systems is gonna be. Like that stuff has got to get work its way down through into the lakes, into the groundwater. But that's one of the things that bothers me about this whole system. Any big system on the lakes, township. So, yeah, I don't like the idea of it. The cooperative. I know we have one in the area that was developed years ago. And I had nothing to do with it at the time. I think we got to look more at that in this area too. Like, we got more to say, but it's not on this here.
Thank you. Councilor Fowler?
Yes, I really feel for the Falls. I really understand, you want this and they can understand that. And you were gracious enough that they can get this in person. And I also see that the water as well. I'm a visible person with the CP. And the thing is that this is a waterfront. And that'll never change. It's, no matter what you do, you could call it, change the name of it, change the purpose of it, but it will always be a waterfront. And it's my big concern, and like I said, this is a very sensitive lake. The trout lake, spring fed. You could see to the bottom there. If you could look 20 feet down into that lake, you could see the bottom. It's a beautiful feature, you know, and I feel for losing this, losing the ability, you know, of this precious lake. And it's very unique. You know, I do, I can't support even the bylaw. And I know you can't speak right now, but I do understand and you know, I really think of the people, but this is, I'm just a part of it, you know, I just can't go on.
No, Sir Deputy Mayor and then Councilor.
Yeah, I just want to reiterate what the mayor said, and I'm fully in agreement with what he said, and the precedent that it sets. That's what worries me. And, you know, we're so concerned about our lakes up here. And I'm not 100% sure if environmentally this will damage the lake. It may not, but it's the precedent that it sets with the other lakes. And that's why I can't support it. It's, I just don't want to see this. And I think after this is all done, we need to change something in their zoning. So I feel.
Councilor Inglis.
I just think there's a lot of hypocrisy happening here based on some kind of an ideological problem with the rural cooperative zone. I must say, I am offended when, by your comment about some kind of fear about that type of development. I live in a rural cooperative.
Sorry, Councilor Inglis, every councilor here in the
That's right, but I want to point out that I live on a cooperative zone land that controls 700 acres. Maybe there should be great fear what can happen to that 700 acres. The other point is that we have zoning that controls development around lakes. This development would have been, as it stands now, reported as a condominium or a subdivision. Lot size is far larger. So I don't get it. I don't get what's the problem with, in fact, if a property is developed as a rural cooperative, so in a rural co-op zone, it's actually far less likely to be sold in the future because of the difficulties in finding a buyer. It's probably the most stable form of ownership that we can allow.
Thank you for that. Anyone else? Councilor Good.
Yeah. No.
Thank you. Okay, I'm going to read the resolution. Please.
Moved by Councilor Hermer, second by Deputy Mayor Hudel. Be it resolved that council receives for information the planning report addendum and attachments prepared by Jenny, acoustic community planner of the County of Frontenac regarding the official plan amendment, file number OP 0222, and zoning bylaw amendment, file number Z0822, for Opera Palmerston Cottage Cooperative located at 1099 Beautiful Lane. That council will consider the bylaws to amend the official planning zoning bylaw later in the
Final comments? Deputy Mayor.
I want to make this clear. This first motion is just for accepting the presentation.
It's just accepting the presentation. We're just accepting all the planning reports and everything else. That's all we're doing. We're not approving it. Is that what your question is going to be? Yeah, that's just what I true. Before we go, I have one question, and that addresses both our staff and addresses the county staff. Inside the planning report, there's a series of resolutions. I've never seen that from the planning before. I've always seen a recommendation. And to the public, it can look like we're hiding something. I know that's not the intention. I know everything is above board and so on. I just didn't like it when we're looking for it. It was striking to see it in the open agenda attached. So that kind of bothered me. So in the future, can we not do that? I know it's best of intentions and whatever else, I got it. But I want to make sure that we're seeing this one is being open and fair and respecting of the public and safety. Okay, all in favor of the resolution to accept the report Opposed? Carried. On to item 9B.
Moved by Counselor Hurmer, seconded by Counselor Fowler, be resolved that leave be given to the mover to introduce the following bylaw that have been circulated to all members of council 2025-53 to amend the official plan to redesignate a property to rural cooperative area 1 and 2025-54 to amend the zoning bylaw to rezone a property to rural cooperative section 1 and that these bylaws be read a first, second, and third time and finally passed.
Final comment, Councilor Fowler. I'd like to have a recorded vote. And do that. Against.
Counselor Good. Counselor Hurmer,
No.
Counselor Hudel, Deputy Mayor Hudel,
No.
Counselor Engel,
Yes.
Mayor Lichty.
Against.
Motion is locked 5-1.
Thank you, one and all. Yes.
So because it's a planning application that's been denied, we do have to provide reasons. Which is. I took some notes.
I've never done this, so you're gonna lead us through this.
And at the beginning of the motion, read, be resolved the council denies the OPA and building bylaw based on the fall.
Why do we have to do this? Like we've turned out zoning changes before. No?
No, and so normally, if you follow with the planner report, then in that sector reasons to approve or not approve. And you are required to give a reason about your application. It's a free thing. And so because that is what the procedure, they just said we divided, we took some comments of Carrot Lakes and Shoreline, Springfed Trout Lake, Trout Pony Bed, overdevelopment, agriculture vision. Any questions? Maybe.
Well, let's start with Wayne's position, and Wayne, you can correct me here if I'm wrong. On certain areas to what stuff rate the site looks like. And potential damage to lakes. Council, is there anything else?
Just the fact is that the more people that is swimming in that locally area right there with Bonnie Beach is possibility of more pollution with hairspray, soaps, phosphates.
Council Fowler?
Basically, it does not support both the county and the North Frontenac official plan. And that it's not supporting lakes and shoreline, they can take that into consideration. And also the Palmerton Lake is a spring-fed trout lake. And it has a natural gravel feature known as Gravel Point. And at the end of the gravel point is a trout spawning bed. It might be a
Can you summarize that into potential long-term damage to the trout fishery on an important lake to North Frontenac Township?
yes.
Councilor Hermer?
I think it's our duty and obligation to protect our resources.
I don't know.
It has to support the.
Then I will say nothing.
Do that. Okay, so precedent setting. Potential, extension to other lakes. In the township known as Land Lakes. Potential damage to tourism. Also no access to the site there too. So, I think we need to- It's very hard to prove something when you don't know you're gonna get in and out, and all that onus becomes a civil matter between the applicant and the person or the people controlling the access to that site. And we may vote for this, could vote for this, and then what happens is the individual controlling the access to the site, says, I'm not doing it. You would sit there. With somebody change it. And then like you get a fire truck. And we can say, oh, well, we can do that. No problem. You wanted to build a house on a piece of landlocked property with 3-foot wide access, you probably wouldn't allow it. All you need are you need. So we're on to item 10. Okay. Pardon me.
Moved by Deputy Mayor Hudel, second by Councillor Good. Be resolved, the council denies the OP and zoning bylaw amendments based on the following: uncertainty of the substrate and damage to the lakes, more people swimming near the spawning bed, therefore impacts on the lake, does not support county and township official plan of protecting the lake, spring-fed lake, end of point trout spawning potential long-term impact on trout fishery, obligation to protect resources, water plus, and what protect resources being water, the precedent setting and potential expansion to other lakes, and potential damage to tourism, no access to the site, and water supply.
Final comments? Everybody's happy with both reasons? In favor? Opposed? I'm not doing it here. Okay, so item 10A, Clerk's Administrative Report, Communications A section.
Moved by Deputy Mayor Hudel, second by Councillor Hermer. Be resolved, the council receives for information Section A items of the Clerk's Administrative Report entitled Communications of Interest.
Comments? In favor? Carry. Item B, Communications B section, action items. B1, Land O'Lakes Garden Club, read the 3rd annual pitch-in for Mother Earth litter pickup day.
Moved by Councillor Hermer, seconded by Deputy Mayor Hudel. Be resolved, the council receives for information an email from Mary Kelly, Land O'Lakes Garden Club, advising the 3rd annual pitch-in for Mother Earth campaign will be held April 25th, 2026. The council supports the annual pitch-in for Mother Earth event and approves use of the Berry Hall and parking lot on April 25th, 2026. And the council waives the hall rental fee for the event. And the council approves the Township of Addington Highlands placing a bin on a temporary basis in the Berry Hall parking lot. and that the Public Works Manager will prepare the required memorandum of understanding between the township and the Land O'Lakes Garden Club, requiring the garden club in their leadership role to oversee the event, be responsible for and provide proof of insurance for the events and all volunteers, indemnify the township, and commit to all safety provisions. And the council authorizes the Public Works Manager to approve the event with the Land O'Lakes Garden Club through a memorandum of understanding on an annual basis, including the use of the area hall without a fee.
Comments? In favor? Carry. So that brings us to item 11, which is transfer of property to County of Frontenac for KMP Trail road closing bylaw.
Moved by Deputy Mayor Hudel, second by Councilor Hermer. Be resolved, the council receives for information the clerk planning manager's administrative report entitled Transfer of Property to County of Frontenac for KMP Trail road closing bylaw, and the council will consider a bylaw later in the meeting to stop up, close, and sell the concession road allowance between concession 9 and 10, lots 9 and 10.
Comments? In favor? Carry. Opposed? Item is carried. Item 10B. 11B. Appointment of Secretary Treasurer for the Committee of Adjustment Planning Advisory Committee.
Moved by Councilor Hermer, seconded by Deputy Mayor Hudel. Be it resolved, the council receives for information the clerk planning manager's administrative report entitled Appointment of Secretary Treasurer of the Committee of Adjustment Planning Advisory Committee. The council approves the deputy clerk assistant to the planning manager being appointed as Secretary Treasurer of the Committee of Adjustment Planning Advisory Committee, and the council will consider an appointing bylaw later in the meeting.
Comments? In favor? Carried. I mean, you're getting. And Brooke's gonna. Okay, item 11C, Public Works Manager options to manage a non-eligible blue box material post-transition. Case, we're gonna take a 3-minute bathroom break or lifestyle break. Want everybody here for this particular. Welcome back, everyone. We're going to item 11C, options to manage non-eligible blue box material post-transition. Sarah, you want to read the resolution and then we'll have Darren do a little presentation, please?
Moved by not the top. Moved by Councilor Good, second by Councilor Hermer. Be it resolved that council receives for information the Public Works Manager's administrative report entitled Options to Manage Non-Eligible Blue Box Material Post-Transition. The council approves providing collection and processing services for blue box materials from industrial, commercial, and institutional users at the township fixed waste sites without a service fee commencing January 1st, 2026. And that the blue box program introduced for IC&I users will be monitored and assessed after 1 year, considering the demand and associated costs, with the result reported to council, and that the free tag incentive for household waste in exchange for each bag of recyclables will continue in accordance with bylaw 2023.
Darren?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So this item, we're just dealing with the blue box material and how to manage it. We're not dealing with their agreement that's required with certain material. So it isn't complicated, but it's a lot of moving parts. Just starting with some background and an overview. I started here 2017, and these transitions were just underway with producer responsibility. So we've transitioned tires, electronics, hazardous waste, and the final component here, we're now doing the blue box. So circular materials producer responsibility is the pro. going into this, I think we felt there would be a number of pros, but really there's certain materials to deal with the box. And we've been dealing with them about 3 years on this transition. So in our municipality, we transitioned July to December of this year, during that transition period. And we're operating the depots, and we're compensated by certain materials to do that. And kind of a special arrangement we had with, we're providing the bins and we're collecting the blue box materials and we're doing it all. So that was compensated from. And starting January 1st, end of the transition period, certain materials take over responsibility for them. And we discussed kind of our options of dealing with that and our considered. You see a lot of references to really the issue. There's non-eligible sources and eligible. And the township's responsible for the non-eligible sources. Circular materials are responsible for eligible. So the non-eligible that we're responsible for. And this is in accordance with the regulation provincial level. This is something that circular materials offer. On their obligations under the regulation, and they're not obligated to manage the non-eligible sources. Which I have a list of categories that are identified as non-eligible, but it basically comes down to residential and non-residential. Eligible is residential, they manage that. Not residential or industrial, commercial, that's our responsibility. So the ones that industrial, commercial, the ones that really catch up, we can, campground, trailer park, short-term rental, where short duration stay, business, not considered residential, and facilities like our municipal office, not eligible. Our recycling in the circular materials happen many. So a long list there, but for eligible sources that circular materials are responsible for, basically residential. I can imagine within that regulation and in the definitions, there's a lot of uncertainty. Going to get some growing pains with the implementation of this. There's a lot of kind of contentious situations. And some examples would be you have a bakery with a resident. Even recyclables from the bakery, not eligible. There are obligations to residents as in zone or things like the campground rental, they're short term, not eligible if it's seasonal rental, long term. For long term seasonal site, that's considered residential and eligible. The challenge we're going to have at site in managing this is going to be depending on what option accept, potentially our bins, not eligible. Materials can be eligible and the attendance need a means of correcting folks right now. The options that are proposed here really reflect the situation of where we're in. We have, we've upgraded for the last few years all of our facilities. We have new bins, we have a modern lift truck, so reflecting where we're at and impacting the options that we've proposed. The first was trying to negotiate with certain materials to continue the collecting and hauling with our bins the way we did during the transition period. But they weren't interested in that. They went large area contract covering the province. From an administrative point of view and probably cost savings based on economy of scale. They really weren't interested in dealing with municipalities and one out having these arrangements like we have to. But they do hire us to manage and operate the depots. We're compensated for that. But we won't be hauling, or we won't be providing bins to our hauling. Earlier, so the options kind of reflect infrastructure and staffing and facilities that we currently have. I'll mention quick materials under the regulation, they are obligated to service our 6 sites. These sites that we have where we collect waste have current box service are obligated to provide that same level. So option 1 was commingling, where we would our non-eligible material and certain material in, and we would compensate them based on anything for managing our blue box material. They originally weren't interested in doing that at all. From pressure from the provincial level, really contentious issue, really running with 2 parallel programs. Makes sense to manage together. So they're back and they considered commingling, and they brought forward a proposal. So they're willing to accept it. Details is still being worked on. But what we found and what they're proposing so far is they're going to work out the blue box quantity that they anticipate from the average household. And that will be the tonnage they cover, and then anything beyond that on an annual basis. And it just shifts all the risk of being over and tonnage would land on the municipality. So I just find that unacceptable, right? Especially in a municipality like ours, where our quantities such a fluctuation for seasonal residents and the demand changes so much. It just puts all the risk on the township. And we know during the transition, based on looking at impact records, we know that our commercial sector really only represents about 3% recyclable future energy. So, and our adjustments with certain materials during transition period was based on that number. Going forward, they're not prepared to do that. So I'm not recommending this option. It's an issue with all municipalities for the most part. Very few are not on being willing. Sort of material. We had a meeting earlier this week with Waste Management Association, member municipalities such as ours, and it seems like they want this resolved for January 1st. All right, probably going to result in something. An option to look at negotiating with the with certain materials subcontractor that will be doing the ins and hauling. Concerns with that, there's certain materials contract administrator they hire, there's their subcontractor, and then there'd be the township, be a further subcontractor. I'm uncomfortable with that arrangement. What save up to running downhill, so that we would be in a lot of. I don't recommend being subcontractor, and all of our dealings would be with that subcontractor. We'd have a separate contract with them. And if we had issues, we wouldn't have the option of going to certain and get a result. Third option is don't run a blue box program for the non-eligible source. There's some municipalities that are doing this. They've ended their blue box program for the non-eligible material. And there are other options, private in service. And other options in the commercial sector. That isn't the way we've operated. So we get to the option that I am recommending, considering it a pilot project, and if it's feasible or working out, then perfect. So option 4, I'm recommending is that we continue to accept blue box material for the non-eligible sources. And there's a couple options there. You could do it with or without a fee. And I'm just suggesting that we continue the way we are now without a fee. Then we could offer all 6 of those sites, or we could shortlist list of sites and offer it as a selected site. We're recommending that we continue with all 6 sites. I really see this as a pilot project where we can monitor costs and our experience quantities for a 12-month period. And then reflect, CVPs and costs more by versus at all 6. That's the recommended option moving forward. Our program, this is where we land in this. It's not getting very personal. It's very materials for our offering. I want to mention that some of the impacts with this and staffing, I really don't see any impact on site attendance. It's just still open, they're open the same hour, they're still accepting garbage and waste. And then with this blue box program, we adopt option 4 where we're running our bin. Materials have their bin. Anything that's going to put more demand on the attendance. Training box. And especially initially, just better organized and keep the material separate. The other position is the waste hauler. There is some impact there. So there'll be less hauling if you were happening with the box material. We're still hauling waste from the transfer site to the site. And we'll be hauling the non-eligible material. And the plan would be to assign additional duties to the operator position that are currently completed by our own staff, covering the waste site over the winter maintenance, and now the compacting it. So one of those maintenance duties, the growth equipment would be assigned to this individual. And then, but the organized has additional time for other duties that assigned to the regular operator, which is what he does now in winter maintenance. Very related to the blue box program and the option that we identify programs impacted by this are free bag of weights at no cost disposal of it per bag of recycling. And I'm just suggesting that should continue as is. We thought about whether it was impacted by the program. But it isn't, the objective there was to encourage recycling and produce material in landfills, and really that continued with our recycling of most of our bins recommend that program. You financial impact here. And we've been monitoring quantities during this transition period from July until now. And we found, and this is based on our percentage, the tonnage of wet facility of the materials that help with the support. And taking our MCAT data, I bumped it up a bit here, so we would say 4% of that is uneligible. Well, with 9 tons annually, so we'll have to pay a processing fee for that when we take it ability, and then we have the trucking cost. So I'm estimating that the total cost is about $10,000 annually. Program. Monitor that for 12 months or whatever period per month. All these assumptions are correct. Technology over or entity fund. All these.
Thank you, one and all. So, questions, comments? Councilor Inglis.
The room for 2 more bins, it's a 2-stream new box system. Is that correct?
Yeah,
So is there room for 2 more bins at each station?
it's going to be challenging because depending on the subcontractor they have, it's looking like they go to smaller front loading bins. So on our busier sites, they may have a dozen of those. So we're looking at that now, reconfiguring our sites to accommodate their bin and our bin. It's going to be easy at some sites and it's going to be pretty challenging at others, especially open.
So for the user comes into the site and sees our blue bin, our dark blue bins and contracted red ones, and has to be directed as to where to put the pile of newspapers.
That's going to be the role for the attendant. And there's signage. There's actually provisions in the draft legal agreement with certain materials where we have to demonstrate to them that we have a method and steps we've taken to ensure the appropriate for materials. They definitely don't want to see our non-eligible materials in there. It's going to be challenging sites. It's going to be that's the law.
Councilor Good.
This is gonna make it a little more difficult for the two taxpayers. Will you be given, or can we give out a fairly simple flyer and have the tenants give it out to the people before January 1st?
Yeah, well, we're working now on documents to distribute and social media, website, and flyers and notices with the wake sites and handouts at the wake sites. We've just been holding off till we get a decision today on just what direction we're going. There is one good news item for Councilor England. It looks like they will be accepting soft plastics. So
In what way?
you'll be able to bring your bag of soft plastic in January.
Wait,
Okay.
Sir Fowler. Yeah, I'm looking at the free tag incentive. You accumulated a whole bunch of these tags. What are they worth? When can you use them?
You can bring them in and exchange that. You can bring a bag of waste. And if you don't bring a bag of recycling, you bring that bag and save yourself $2 on the bag.
The problems I have is I separate all my garbage as much as possible. Yeah, I usually end up with two bags of recyclables per one bag of garbage.
The township used to take those bags as with the cash value. You could apply it, say, to your bulky item or any additional costs, but it's quite a few years ago now. The township changed the policy of You can't save them up and use them to pay for other services at the site. But
That's exactly what I was doing back then. And
yeah,
I'll take it from you, don't worry. I'll take your blue tag, don't worry. Anyone else? So Darwin, you said that you figured there's gonna be about 9 tons of basically commercial recyclables that we're gonna be responsible for.
that's right.
How much did one truck haul?
I hate without not compacted about a ton. Our loads typically run around a ton.
So that's 9 truckloads a year spread between Mississippi Station, 506, and Lebanon.
You know, this would be collected from all 6.
So I'm thinking if we didn't,
Okay,
recycle this at $10,000, what's the damage if we just said, forget the experiment, we're just gonna put it in the landfill? And I'm looking at Brooks Water Bottle Air, which is recyclable. If she dumps it at home and puts it in recycle, it's free. She brings it here and puts it in our recyclable, we have to pay for it. So that's just the rant I got with this program. But is it, so if you got 3 sites that when waste stays on the site, that's roughly 3 truckloads a year per site. Is it worthwhile spending $10,000? Or do we want to say this is fund that and it's environmentally sound to actually do this and we're going to try it for you? Which is what the resolution is supposed to do.
Would not the other, excuse me, would not the other option be to take it to Plebanot site that has a compactor and compact into lots?
yeah, we've kept that. We haven't been using that compactor, but we've kept it, but it isn't compatible with any of the bins. But for an uneligible site option. And the other option was, we looked at if not doing all 6 sites. It could just introduce the uneligible at the 3, like 506, Lebanon, Asher, Mississippi, depending on where the businesses are located. Looking at one option was not include the transfer stations, don't include all of our point. So as a pilot, they just brought it forward doing all 6. Good.
What's the process going to be between us and them?
I'm gonna work on that. They're still working with Circuit Materials. So we have them take their non-eligible. We end up say sharing bins or something with track quantities. And share the cost.
What happens at
Talking to my
506 now?
counterpart there.
What happens at 506 now? 506 site? We added in Highlands uses that site.
Just for hazardous.
Just for hazardous?
Yeah, Poine's the only site where we share Blue Bottom.
That's what from Chevron, or up on,
Student, yeah. Where they have their own garbage bin, we have ours, but we take the recycling.
So if I didn't Highlands messed up, I had the same thing down in Wisconsin Vision. Adding Highlands does kind of their own thing, so do we have any kind of controls over them? Or,
Well,
we just say, this is the way it is, folks, it can happen.
we have control over one option is allow them to use our bins. Track the quantities in proportion. I think they're hoping to put their material in circular material.
That's a problem. Like, you get compensated for circular materials for running the waste thing. So there's more waste coming in, recyclables coming in, we get more money. But then Highlands is going to want share of that. We're doing
Our operating costs is just, it's a fixed amount monthly. And it isn't a function of how many tons of recycling.
Any final comments here? So we are looking at.
Or without these, without these having been provided also. Right,
Okay, folks, all in favor? Anybody opposed? That actually, I used to. Or yes. So the next item is 11D, request to extend the year-round maintenance limits on East Bay Road.
Moved by Counselor Hermer, seconded by Deputy Mayor Hudel. Be resolved that council receives for information the Public Works Manager's administrative report entitled Request to Extend the Year-Round Maintenance Limits on East Bay Road, and that 50+ properties are serviced by East Bay Road beyond Butterball Lane, and the council is looking for a decision on the request to extend the limits of year-round maintenance on East Bay Road by 900 meters from Butterball Lane to Thacker Lane, and that the Public Works Manager shall update Schedule B and provide a copy of all changes to the clerk in accordance with bylaw 8915. And the council instructs the clerk to retain a copy of the revised Schedule B with the original bylaw and provide a copy to council and the chief administrative officer.
I have a last minute update on this item. Yesterday received a request from resident beyond Thacker Lane on East Bay Road, wanting the limits extended to past their property. I mentioned in the report, I could see that coming. I just would come so fast.
You probably read the agenda.
Yeah, so that I'm looking at the agenda. So I'm recommending, I really just assess the road to Thacker and the costs. So this new request, I'm recommending that we, for this item, and I review it further and report to council.
Councilor Fowler?
I could vote on it today if it gets enough.
Well, but if that's, if in principle, we're not accepting them at all, then
Just hang on.
vote on it.
You gotta give council a chance to voice their opinion. Councilor, you good?
I'm in agreement with Counselor Fowler, and it's once we do this, this is gonna open up a whole nest. I know it, I've seen it before. When we accepted Sunday Lake Drive back years ago, it just opened up a whole swarm of bees coming in there wanting every lane in the township maintained. And we just can't afford it, this township. We're running into new costs on different things all the time. And anyway, long story short, I cannot support it.
Councilor Hermer?
I agree with the rest of the council. We have enough problems trying to maintain what we have now.
Councilor Lewis, you definitely there? Huh? Definitely there.
So this is on my list. Because of the additional, request that came in today, we've done it for everybody else. So I think let Darwin look at the increase that it is, because we can't, what are you gonna do? Turn something down now and turn it down again next week? Let's look at what Darwin does.
Let's,
I'm looking at Darwin's report and I don't actually see a recommendation from one way or the other. Fact is, there are 50 taxpayers. He's $50,000. More. So I hear what Wayne says.
Van Lake Road.
All kinds of. Quite frankly, I'm sure.
Okay, well, so we have a ballot.
Every time one of these items come up, and I've supported, them, and it gets denied for the same reason, so we've set a precedent that, therefore, that's why I'm here for denying.
quite a bit of time. I know about 4 properties that we've done this. We've never done one in a house. You're good? No, hang on, the house are good.
We've done other ones in previous, before previous council with a lot of houses on it as well. I don't know just how many, but there is places that has got I'm gonna say like Cash Lake Lane, there's 150 houses.
Shabamika too.
Yeah,
Beyond
so
Shabamika.
Shabamika beyond.
10 kilometers in there.
So, and to ask Darwin to go and do more work on this other part, but I think we're wasting our taxpayers' money again by doing that. Sorry, Councilman, but I don't think we should be spending that extra money when we're gonna, if we have enough votes, we're gonna turn this down. But luckily we got at least 3 here right now, and we could be deciding to go.
Like 6, I think 2, 3 for the bills. Nothing like putting the mayor on the spot. Deputy mayor?
I mean, 2 questions. So first of all, 50 people, and then, but the residents that, put in the email to Darwin are permanent residents. So that's why the rest, I don't know how many permanent residents are in those 50. I don't believe many. It's past that point. Permanent residents are there. But let's say we did approve, so just hypothetically. Does their tax increase? It does not.
So, general question, council, do we need to absolutely urgently review our private money policy? Or some clearing policy, policy?
Why don't we just, if we got, right now we've got 3 that says no to this, why would we continue on with it?
I just asked them that. You know, that's what I'm saying. We did it here, we didn't do it here, and so on. Councilor Fowler, Councilor, you have a question too? Your comment? The Councilor Fowler will be the last one. We had Forest and Highland there, that trail, our area. There's a lot of people, and they've been denied, and it's our road. Yeah, but there's a lot of permanent people there tonight. There. There's many people leaving the city down. All right. Call the vote.
We don't have an actual direction in the resolution. Darwin didn't provide a recommendation, so it just at this point says, and that council blank the request to extend. I need to either put approve or deny in here, and we need to vote on what it was.
So I know this is going to be defeated, but I would request defer until Darwin comes back with the report from the other letter.
That's good.
I request deny. Why spend the extra money and have Darwin spend that time on it?
I have to admit, you don't change my mind very often. You did in this time. You know, because I'm thinking of all, like Shabamika within 10, 11 kilometers, 12 kilometers. Sand Lake Road's got 100 and some thousands on it, and that's all done privately. Is there some of the others that just, as much as I'd like to actually do this, I think the ramifications are tremendous. But increase your taxes. I'm not worried about $3,000 or $4,000. We're worried about 40 or 50 or 60,000 plus. That's what's going to be. And we have a budget coming up next week. And if you want to add it to that at that time for us to look at it, I didn't include it with staff, but that will be the time for that once you see the budget. And the budget went out to you last night, so I'm assuming everybody's already read it in detail and whatever, sure. So I'm going to instruct Tara, put an I in there and we go on.
Be resolved that council receives for information the Public Works Manager's administrative report entitled Request to Extend the Year-Round Maintenance Limits on East Bay Road, and that 50 properties are serviced by East Bay Road beyond Butterball Lane, and the council denies the request to extend the limits of the year-round maintenance on East Bay Road by 900 meters from Butterball Lane to Thacker Lane, and the other 2 don't apply if it's denied.
Okay, tonight in favor of the resolution? 5. Opposed? I got getting there.
Yes.
I just want to comment on this. If we continue to deny this, why are we bringing it to council?
And that is the reason I said, we have this issue keeps coming back. And it's not 1, 2, or 3 houses, but 10, 20, 30, 50, 100. Don't look at it. You should have a more formal policy. After you explain it. That's not for today, but that's in the immediate future. Yeah.
But the reason I asked about the tax rate, so this is a private lane. They pay to have it plowed. Well, if they want the municipality, why wouldn't we increase our taxes? We can't do that, Kelly, like.
But so impact would possibly look at it, but I don't think there's really a big assessment value because it's township maintained versus personally maintained.
Could we charge them? Could we use our equipment? Do we have the equipment to actually do it and then charge them?
No.
But they can't hire us as a private contractor. We can't hire out our staff as a private contractor.
No. Well, I guess it's potentially, I guess you could, but you would then be, I mean, our resources are, I think, already full with activities, so you'd be doing a bunch of.
Correct.
I would think I think we'd be taking on about a fair amount of liability as well. On this plan.
All right, but then problem. Well, that isn't. Major road. You even identify the major roads, like what would be National Plus. Big Dollar State down in that.
I don't think we should be asking staff to do that. There again, that would be wasting our money to do that. You're looking at some majority, like major roads. Lanes you're looking at here, so I think it's gonna be a lot. Ask staff to do time-wise.
Not just no problem. It's not an easy decision. It affects so many people.
Yeah, I just want to reiterate, if we're not going to accept these, then I don't think we should see them council. I mean, it's a done deal. It's just, you're talking about time.
So we have a bylaw in place that says this needs to come to council, and this is pretty big, and I don't think this would be up to Darwin to say yes or no. This is the council. I think it needs to stay that way. I think only thing to put in that this on one member of staff. It's not, I don't think.
The other thing is this came to council in a communication fee. Any request from the rep comes in communication fee. And the direction from the table was for it to go back and be looked at and then brought back to council. So I mean, an option if you're not going to consider these is to just add communication fee, deny it right away, and it saves the staff time of reviewing it. Then there's an option there if that's your way of going. If we set it back by month.
Well, I go back to the figure that Darwin gave us in budget time last year, the kilometer gravel road, every 3 years, 30,000, so it's probably 31, 32 now. You know, and if you've got 30 extra kilometers for maintaining, that's roughly 35,000 bucks a year. So, and that's 0.5% of the tax levy. But anyway, that's just, you know. Okay, so that resolution we're done with. So now we're moving on to item 12A, and that is the Committee of Adjustment Planning Advisory Committee.
Moved by Deputy Mayor Schuttle, second by Councillor Hermer. Be resolved that council receives for information the minutes of a meeting of the Committee of Adjustment Planning Advisory Committee held September 22nd, 2025.
Comments? In favor? Carry. Item 12B, Joint Health and Safety Committee.
Moved by Counselor Hermer, seconded by Deputy Mayor Hughes. Be it resolved that council receives for information the minutes of the meeting of the Joint Health and Safety Committee held August 22nd, 2025.
Comments? In favor? Carry. Item 13, anyone wishing to give notice of motion? Seeing none, we've got no motions of written notice, which is given previously on the table. That takes us to council portfolio. So your mayor is now an unemployed warden, so, you know, it was, I'd like to thank everybody, exception. Who was the last, and this one was by far the most professionally done. Rough on that, really was, Niagara County did it. We had a lot of help with Claremont community volunteers, with some additional volunteers, and with their own staff, especially for our team. The centerpieces of the table were designed around varsity reasons, then they did a great job. I was hoping to take one home, but apparently a lot of that, I just let it go. Well, it is what it is. Meal was good, couldn't fault it. So the new, warden is from Frontenac Island, name is Bill Saunders, he'll do a good job. I attended 3 Remembrance Day ceremonies, Denby, Flinton, and Plevna, all with different weather conditions. And thank you, Councillor Good, for showing up at Flinton. Appreciate you being there. The county tax rate was set on Wednesday at 3%. There's a possibility there could be a slight variation. Because the city keeps the money in the past so too, but that's what it is. That included 2 ambulances, it included some new paramedic staff, it included additional nursing care. There was almost nothing in the way of private grants. It was one for community grants for the 2,500. Turned down money to bring a caboose from the Denby area down to Chevrolet and some other stuff. However, council did approve $100,000 to be granted to support the construction of the trailhead at Chevrolet. Reasons that 2 trails can be good, but they're the Havelock Trail and the KMP Trail, and just south of there is the Trans-Canada Trail. Most of the area already exists as a trailhead, but what we wanted to do was build washrooms. And for the next 20 years, they're on the book for all the capital costs, other than 100,000, those all make. So that will really make that center for the trail, which is good. So if we ever decide to build a trailhead, they have criteria for it, which is much more excessive than we'd ever need. They would contribute $200,000. And that motion took a little bit of discussion in favor as well. It passed finally. That's it. Sure. Next one is Councilman Good.
You've already reported what the Senate have Clinton, nothing else to report.
Thank you.
We have an MVCA board meeting coming up next week. We also have quite a few MVCA meetings coming up. Sally did the presentation, so I'm not going to talk about that. And the only other thing is I resigned from the Beckman Advisory Committee for the Frontenac Utilities as first quarter of 2026.
We're gonna have to look at that again, 5 years, whether we want to stay under or not. And I think other townships will be the same. The ideas are great. But further down the road, when we presented it to council, and not now, but down the road, 10 or 20 years, the more we put down this road, we're gonna be sad. That would make it up to the side. Councilor Hermer?
Nothing to report.
Councilor Fowler?
Yes,
Eastern Ontario Trails Alliance, we had a meeting this last week. And at the meeting, we decided to ask Ontario Federation of Snowmobile Clubs to have one of their members sit on our board. The reason for that is that it helps with communications between the two groups. And we had them there before and it worked out. It'll be something that's new. Seniors and law enforcement together. We had a meeting on November 20th, it was very successful. The next one was actually today. There was a presentation down in Farham, and it was dealing with medically assisted dying. And somebody from that organization to explain to people. I thought it was very interesting one to be participating. Our next North Frontenac presentation will be at Clare Mill Hall on January 22nd. And it'll be the title of Frauds and Scams. On the Ontario Provincial Police, their next meeting is December 18th, so I haven't had any what like do with that right now. But that's all I have for them. Thank you, Councilor English.
Nothing to report.
One last thing, officially the county of the KMP Trail rebuilt the Antoine Creek Bridge. They were successful in acquiring a grant for funding from the Ontario Federation of Snowmobiles for $29,000 change. Also, the local snowmobile club and the Frontenac ATV Club, I understand, put in $5,000 each. Really good. That work is done as well. To introduction and reading of bylaws.
Moved by Councillor Fowler, second by Councillor Hermer. Be it resolved that leave be given to the mover to introduce the following bylaws that have been circulated to all members of council. Bylaw 2025-51 to appoint a secretary treasurer for the Committee of Adjustment Planning Advisory Committee, and 2025-52 to close, stop up, and sell a portion of the concession road allowance. And that these bylaws be read a first, second, and third time and finally passed.
Comments? In favor of the motion? Passed. We have the public forum. I'm going to start with anybody in the council chamber. Rob, you have anything you want to say? Stop. Thank you.
So I forget the gentleman's name that did the Alto presentation, but okay. He hit the nail on the head when he said that this rail line is intended to connect the disconnected communities. So yes, it would dramatically change and improve travel times to urban centers. The general consensus is that, you know, that North Frontenac doesn't want to grow. We do want to grow. And I think we're looking at something that's probably going to be, by the time somebody steps on one of these trains, it's going to be 20 to 25 years from today. But on his picture, we're somewhere, maybe not in the impact zone, but we're somewhere in the influenced zone. So a stop might not be right next door, but for anybody who lives here, driving an hour in any direction just to go grocery shopping is not out of the norm. So getting to one of these rail switching stations isn't probably out of the question either. So in order for us to, again, move with the times and grow with everything around us, we're going to need time as a council and as a community to grow, to catch up to some of these developments that are going to happen in 20 years. So that would give us time to, you know, put maybe not shovels in the ground, but at least frameworks in place for infrastructures for potential for industrial park areas or rezonings, housing development initiatives, all these things, because yes, we're an area that people do work remotely, but pretty soon it's not going to be remotely. It's going to be, they live here because we have a beautiful place and they can get to work within an hour. So that changes our whole economics, that changes our whole tax base, that changes everything that we're sitting here on right now to something more profitable if we ourselves start putting in place some of these initiatives, or at least the frameworks of, to be able to come to fruition at the same time as these railways.
You got your point. Everyone hasn't been lost in council. I do take exception to your comment about general consensus that we don't want to grow. I don't think there's anyone for you or anyone on council to say that. But it has to be in the right direction and measured and in a reasonable rate. That's the way I'm looking at it. So thank you for your comment. Is there anyone online, Kelly?
We do. So anyone that is online, if you do wish to speak, please just use the raise hand feature. We do have one. Go ahead, Kelly.
Good morning, Kelly.
Good morning, Mr. Mayor and Council. Thank you for allowing me. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Oh, excellent. Okay, so as Robert had mentioned, I just wanted to talk to the Alto presentation. Very nice idea. I really kind of like this high frequency of connectivity. 300 kilometers an hour is quite a speed. I know that once a train comes through like that, you're not going to want to have anybody kind of crossing the tracks at any point in time. I'm hoping that the federal government will consider having this an elevated railway system, just as the systems that exist currently with the airport system here in Mississauga and Toronto. What's really nice about that is that it will not impede or cut North Frontenac off from the lower parts of Frontenac County. But I can see that if the trail if the railway system goes from Peterborough to Ottawa, as suggested, we're going to have, North Frontenac should consider expanding its, I guess, how could I say it? Partnerships with those people or counties that are in parallel with us in the north. But I hope that it won't change the wonderful characteristics that exist in North Frontenac. And I think that having the rapid train system would be a great benefit. And as Robert had said, it won't be for 20 to 25 years, but we do have to make sure that we consider that it's actually going to be coming. Thank you.
Go back to the presentation. I believe the individual, Mr. Lee, indicated that the system would be on its own right away, and there would be no level crossings. And that was the result. That comment was the basis of my question. Well, what about level crossings? No, we'll have bridges, but will that impact the road system potentially? Because what is a road now may not be a road in the future. You want to push one through, you won't be able to do that. So we'll have to wait and see. There's so much unknown. They're just doing preliminary work at this point in time, so we all have to wait and see. And 20, 25 years is probably reasonable, and 20 or $25 billion might be reasonable. So we'll get there. We don't know yet. Thank you for your comment.
Okay.
Anyone else, Kelly?
Seeing none.
Thank you, everyone. We are going to now take a 5-minute break, and we're going to move into a closed session. So folks will be back when the closed session is over for a little bit, but we need a resolution, don't we? Yes. Okay.
Moved by Counselor Hermer, seconded by Counselor Fowler. Be resolved, the council retires to closed session at 11:58 PM to adopt closed minutes AM. Too close to noon, to adopt closed minutes of meetings held October 10th, 2025 and October 24th, 2025. And B, to discuss an agreement for producer responsibility organization for Blue Box materials under the following subsections of the Municipal Act. Section 239(2)(I), a trade secret or scientific, technical, commercial, financial, or labor relations information supplied in confidence to the municipality or local board, which, if disclosed, could reasonably be expected to prejudice significantly the competitive position or interfere significantly with the contractual or other negotiations of a person, group of persons, or organization. And K, a position, plan, procedure, criteria, or instruction to be applied to any negotiations carried on or to be carried on by on behalf of the municipality or local board.
In favor of the resolution? Carried.
Okay, so for anyone online, we have received some feedback, so we are going to try a new process of going into close so you can remain in the meeting. And we will rejoin this meeting when the closed session is over. So again, different from previously where you've had to sign out, you can remain in the meeting. Thank you.
Welcome back, everyone. We have risen from the closed session in which we discussed an agreement for producer responsibility for Blue Box materials. And we will have our clerk read the resolution.
Moved by Counselor Fowler, second by Counselor Hermer. Be resolved that council receives for information the Public Works Manager's closed administrative report entitled Depot Operations Agreement with Circular Materials. And the council authorizes the chief administrative officer to sign the required depot operations agreement with Circular Materials on behalf of the township for the Blue Box program. And the council also authorizes the chief administrative officer to sign documents such as change orders or notices that may require approval during the contract period.
Final comments? In favor? Carried. A confirmatory bylaw.
Moved by Counselor Hermer, seconded by Counselor Fowler. Be resolved that bylaw 2025-55, being a bylaw to confirm all actions and proceedings of council for its regular meeting held November 21st, 2025, be read a first, second, and third time and finally passed.
Comments? In favor? Carried. Meeting adjournment?
Moved by Counselor Fowler, seconded by Counselor Hermer. Be resolved that council adjourns the meeting at 12:41 PM until the special meeting beginning at 1:00 PM today.
In favor? Our meeting is adjourned. Thank you, one and all.